Okay, thanks. So I'm Steve Batson, and I'm the Community Service Manager for the Mental Health Services in AWP across Bristol, those I haven't met. So just going to look at a couple of slides about how we can support staff through the change. And I think before we look at going forward, as Will has done and others have done, and how you've reflected from this exercise, there's a time and a place to pause and think about actually what the starting position was. And a lot of the tender and a lot of the change and the new models were sold on the fact that services weren't fit for Bristol population. And that's nonsense and should never be the message that you take on board. The services in Bristol were really, really very good. I came in January and February of this year and was incredibly impressed with the professionalism, the passion and the commitment across the whole of the community mental health services for delivering high quality care for a very challenging, diverse population in Bristol, and to do it against a backdrop of criticism from the tender. That's not just my personal opinion. If you look at things like Rethink websites, you look at Time for Change, and you read the chat room forums that go through about the criticism of mental health services across the country, and compare what you hear, what you heard in Bristol and what you provide in Bristol against what other affluent cities across the country provide for their mental health services, the starting position is ahead of a lot of other cities. I read only 2 weeks ago about people in Leicester who couldn't see their care coordinator outside of office hours. That's in 2014. We know that we have one of our neighbouring regions has a crisis team that doesn't work out of hours, doesn't have a night service. So we already start off with a very comprehensive mental health service across Bristol. We have very strong working relationships pre this model with Second Step, Missing Link and other services. We have some good relationships with GP surgeries. What we've been doing here, and this 80% of the work that you've been doing and the pain and the anxiety and the professional concern that you've been vocalising and been trying to work through, is trying to make that 20% difference to the quality of service to be truly excellent services, because we know that Bristol's population need better services and we want to provide better services. It hasn't just been the GPs and the service users and the carers that have been complaining, you've been complaining, and you were complaining before I came in post and in your professional groups, and you've been wanting to make changes. What we haven't done, and my table we're discussing, is being able to hear what staff wanted through this process. It's been a very, very concentrated period of time, and I think it's fair to say we're all sorry for that. Unfortunately, despite putting in a chitty for it, we can't have 25-hour days and 9-day weeks, and there just hasn't been the ability to do everything that we want, and we know would be best practice in terms of managing change. But we're doing the best we can, and at the minute we're trying to hear everybody, and the views we're getting and having such a large group of people in the room today with different ideas, different experiences is really valuable. This is the fourth of 4 welcome sessions, and the other 3 have already produced masses of work that's been processed and is going to inform the development plan going forward. It'll inform the training and the supervision and the support you get going forward. So please keep the ideas coming now. It'll make a big difference going forward, I promise you. So we're, as I say, already delivering a high quality service, and it's going to be better. One of the big themes, and people are still asking about what's the big difference, is about how do we improve the focus to your work. So talking to AWP staff, the majority of you have been our registered staff, and we've had very small amount of non-registered staff within the teams. What the new model will have is we're welcoming the recovery navigators to come in, and I know from being part of that process that the quality and the skills and the range of experiences that recovery navigators have is exceptional, and will bring such a rich and diverse group of skills to the services that we're very fortunate to have them on board. They will be case managing the vast majority of the service users in our assessment and recovery teams. No small task. So it's going to be absolutely massive, and the process of change is going to be very difficult and challenging. We're going to have to work together to do that and make sure that recovery navigators feel supported and empowered to take those cases on. They're going to then free up the qualified staff, the registered staff, ability to do the work that you have been saying that you want to do, the DBT, MBT, CBT and every other therapy that you haven't been able to do because you've been managing large caseloads. So I think it's really exciting and empowering. We're going to empower people to take on interesting cases and manage caseloads and work with interesting service users and do the things that they're able to do very well. And you're going to be able to be part of that as well, and be able to deliver some of the skills that you have got but haven't been able to do because of the pressures of workload. That increase in the focus of your work is going to enable all of us, recovery navigators, registered staff, managers, to develop better working relationships with the partners in this care. It's not an AWP model. It's a partnership of many organisations bringing lots of skills and lots of resources available. These are the wellbeing centres, the healthy centres, the GP surgeries, the other community centres that we will have access to. They all have other people working from them and other skill sets and other services being delivered that we've been isolated from. And we've been working in kind of a silo away from them. We can have access to those, and we can have links, professional links, informal links, that are going to help manage the demand for mental health services. Only 20% of the referrals from GPs coming into PCL, as it was, were being accepted onto the caseload and secondary services. So we need to do something to manage what's happening with those 80% of those referrals that are coming through. People don't know what to do, and they're taking up a lot of time for assessment. So we'll be able to do work with those GPs, those referrers, to make sure that people are getting access to the right service at the right time, and that you're doing the work that you're supposed to be doing. So I think that's really exciting and give you greater focus to the work you'll be able to do. Events like this, as I said, the feedback we get from it, the closer working, we'll be able to get better feedback in terms of developing appropriate training and making sure that the StatMan training, but also the access to more professionally focused training is going to be better suited to your needs. And that through those partnerships, again, you'll be able to access skills where they exist and where we've not had those relationships, access those skills and get the training. So hopefully, again, that will be exciting and help people stay in work because they're going to be able to get better focused training. There's a real desire to ask you to support the management of the Bristol services to make improvements. And that's a difficult thing to say given the criticism we've had over the last 6 months, that it hasn't felt like a two-way process, it's been very much an imposed process. And I guess as a middle manager in the organisation, certainly the changes felt quite imposed upon us as well, so I do understand that. But now is a time to have conversations. We've got events like today. When we move into the new spokes for the assessment and recovery teams and the crisis teams move into those spokes, we will have greater access to CPI colleagues working to help them support psychologically informed thinking, more reflective practice. And we'll have a need to constantly improve the service, because this service hasn't been written, it's not black and white exactly what it's going to be like. No one here will, anybody else, no one knows what it's going to look like in April next year. We've got a good idea and we've got an aspiration of what it should look like, but actually it could change. And there's a lot of factors that can make that change, and you are part of those factors as well by highlighting where the improvement can be made. So I'm just going to move on to the development plan. So coming out of these conversations, which we want to carry on going forward into staff forums within the assessment and recovery teams, within the crisis team, within the EI, CPI, which will have staff, frontline staff, staff side reps and the managers on them, is that we need to develop the development plan. One of the other areas of concern has been that people are wondering how we're going to be supported to be developed going forward. And I can honestly say it's a plan in action. It's there's some things that have been delivered and some things we're looking to you to be part of in developing. So I'm going to have to turn, because I can't read my notes. So the recovery navigators, welcome to those that are here, start today, and they have a process of induction, and that's open to the existing recovery navigators in AWP as well, and that's going over the next few weeks. There'll be service-specific inductions being delivered in the teams. I'm trying to move this up and look. Obviously the welcome sessions. The quality training from SARI is going to be rolled out further across the city, and already in the basis we've got people from IT that are supporting staff reacquaint themselves with laptops, get to know laptops that they haven't handled before, and Rio and navigating Rio. Actually, that'd be another role, a Rio navigator. Good. And the culture change workshops are already started, and so they'll be starting. I think the team managers will begin on those, and they'll be started delivered in each individual team. But what's really important is that the communication is happening, and we are seen to be listening. So those boxes are being read, and they are developing new development plans, and we really want those staff forums to take off, and for you to be able to shape the way that the services are delivered.